Hello, Master. I talk about genetic diversity and protective efficacy of the RTS AS01 Malaria Vaccine. I study in Catholic University Nursing School St. Vincent of Paul. My name is Nadia Barriga Mendez and teacher Master John Moscoso. Definition: vaccine targets the circumparasite protein of the Plasmodium falciparum and has partial protective efficacy against clinical and severe malaria disease in infants and children. We investigated whether the vaccine efficacy was specific to certain parasite genotypes and the circumparasite protein locus.
The world's most advanced malaria vaccine, which is produced by GlaxoSmithKline and is aimed at young children, has cleared a final hurdle. In 2013, there were an estimated 584,000 deaths resulting from malaria, 90% of which occurred in the sub-Saharan Africa. Here to tell us more is GSK Chairman of Vaccines and one of its co-inventors, Monsef Slaoui. Welcome.
Thank you.
So not only is this the first vaccine for malaria, this is the first time they've developed a vaccine for any parasitic disease ever, right?
Exactly. This is really a major scientific breakthrough and also breakthrough for the populations in sub-Saharan Africa.
So what's the sort of time frame here? This is the first hurdle. How long do we think until this will be able to be implemented?
So first it took us 30 years to get here, not because we were lazy, but this was a really very hard one to crack. We had to invent major new technologies to fight this parasite. Now that we have the European Medicine Agency approval, the World Health Organization is going to work on defining how to best implement this vaccine in the sub-Saharan countries, which should take between now and the end of this year. And then the sub-Saharan country governments, regulatory agencies will decide each in their sovereign own decision-making how to implement it, whether to approve it. And also in parallel, the Global Alliance for Vaccines, Gavi, will raise funding to procure this vaccine. Now, GlaxoSmithKline has decided to make this vaccine available at cost plus 5% and reinvest the 5%.
And do you have any idea how many doses you can produce a year?
We can produce at this stage a few million doses every year, and as we learn more how effective in real life this vaccine is, we plan to ramp up our manufacturing capacity.
And because you've had success here, does this mean you can use whatever you've learned from this vaccine and take it to other parasitic equivalents or other diseases?
Absolutely, and that's really one of the breakthrough elements in this news, in that we have now a platform technology that we know is able to induce parts of the immune system that we didn't know how to induce before, and that make a number of other vaccines feasible. In fact, we announced a few months back that we, using very similar technology, are able to have a great vaccine against shingles that has 97% efficacy against shingles.
And how effective is this? It's aimed at small children. Is there a certain age where it's most effective? And is it, is it aimed at babies or can it be given to a toddler?
So this vaccine actually was tested both in infants, 6 weeks to 12 weeks of age, and in toddlers, 5 to 17 months of age. It's slightly more efficacious in toddlers than in babies, about 50% in toddlers efficacy and about 30% efficacy in babies. I would call it moderate efficacy. We could do better, but because malaria kills 500,000 children every year, saving 100 or 200,000 is already a very important first step.
Well, that's very exciting. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Monsef.
Application in nursing. The protective effects of the RTS is the most advanced candidate malaria vaccine in the world. They found that genetic variants of the parasite proteins targeted by the vaccines affect their ability to protect young children against the disease. Pros and cons. The pros: we evaluate the effects that polymorph position and the halotopic region within the circumparasite protein had on basic efficacy against first episode of clinical malaria within 1 year after vaccination. The cons: these results highlight the fundamental aspect of immunity confirmed by the RTS malaria as a non-specific component provides protection regardless of the strain of the parasite, while will and component of the specific strain provides additional protection in the parasite CSP identical to that used in the vaccine.
For many decades now, there's been a lot of work on developing a vaccine for malaria. And most of the vaccines that have been tried using a single protein for malaria to inoculate patients with have been overall relatively disappointing. There's been some limited success here and there's some promising results from a vaccine called RTS S from GlaxoSmithKline. But the history of malaria vaccinology has not been one of great success. You know, this parasite has clearly evolved to be an immune system escape artist and employs a broad number of tricks, including antigenic variation, that is, switching the antigens it presents to the host, to avoid the host immune system. That's its main job for survival. So it's no surprise that the simplistic of approach of just giving it a single malarial protein or antigen hasn't worked that well. There is some very interesting work in the past showing that attenuated parasites, irradiated sporozoites, for example, and so on, potentially have very good protective value. Therefore, I think we're entering into a new era where we understand a little bit more about the parasite and the immune system and vaccinology, but we by no means have the critical information that we need. That is, we do not currently have a molecular correlate of protection. There's nothing that we can measure that I know of in a host that would predict whether they would be protected under challenge or not. And that's a key piece of information that we really do need. The next step is threefold. One, we want to learn more about the basic biology of the organelle. Two, we want to be able to develop therapeutics against it and use the fact that we can complement with IPP to get target-specific hits and high-throughput screening. And three, we want to explore the possibility that an attenuated vaccine could be built from this scaffold.
Issue in Ecuador. Malaria is a global health threat responsible for the hundreds of millions of infections and over 500,000 deaths each year in tropical and subtropical regions. The disease is caused by intracellular protozoan parasites of the genus Plasmodium, which is transmitted to humans by mosquito vectors. Conclusion. These results suggest that among children 5 to 17 months of age, the RTS vaccine has greater activity against malaria parasites with the matched circumparasite protein and less than against mixed-stage malaria. The overall vaccine's efficacy in this age category will depend on the proportion of matched alleles in the local parasite population. If the trial less than 10% of parasites had matched alleles, funded by National Institute of Health and others.
So, 20-month-old Firdaus Ibrahim is suffering from malaria. She's been admitted to the children's ward of Mamobi General Hospital in Accra.
We are concerned about our under 5 mortality, and I think that if malaria is one of our top causes or reasons for admission, then it's important that it's an important focal disease area that we can look at.
Most of the families here are not aware of the medical developments in the fight against malaria that might one day benefit them. But Ghanaian health officials welcome the news that the European Medicines Agency has given its approval to a malaria vaccine developed by GlaxoSmithKline.
If you look at most of the diseases that have been eradicated from the world, vaccines played a big role in it. So we are happy that this is the beginning. We know this vaccine, there's still more work to be done in terms of the development of a malaria vaccine, but this is the beginning, so it's a first good step.
The vaccine was tested in 11 different countries across Africa, including Malawi and Ghana. Most of the 500,000 children who die each year from malaria are in Africa. This is peak season for malaria, and so far this month in this ward they've seen 64 cases. The World Health Organization still needs to review the data on the vaccine before making its policy recommendations later this year. Analysts say there are still many questions to be answered.
Now, this vaccine today is really welcome. It's starting to show an effect for the first time. A lot of questions about it though. How much is it going to cost? How's it going to be delivered? And how long will it last?
Baby Firdaus is being monitored closely. Her condition is improving, but doctors say current malaria prevention methods are not effective enough. And that's why researchers say this vaccine is an important development. Amma Boateng, Al Jazeera, Accra.
Thank you.